Hi, this is the weekly SOFTRAX audio blog for the week of 9/17/2018. My name's Graham Hulme. I'm the Vice President of Product Management here at SOFTRAX. We're a revenue management automation technology company. And one of the things that we frequently do is we comb any information regarding revenue recognition, ASC 606, companies' adherence to various policies, procedures, guidance put forward by FASB, the IASB, and a number of any information source that we can go to become more educated about what the requirements are and compare that to how companies are operationalizing their revenue recognition policies is an area of focus for us. And so I think, to that point, one of the things that was highly interesting this past week to me was a couple of news releases from the SEC and then also articles that supplemented it related to the concept of a company named Tango Incorporated, TANGOE. And it was headquartered in Connecticut. And they improperly recognized approximately $40 million of revenue between 2013 and 2015. And according to the SEC, they reported revenue prematurely for work that hadn't been performed, including prepayments, and for transactions that didn't produce any revenue at all. And so, I think the SEC alleges, as is typically the case, that an executive falsified business records, which were then provided to external auditors to support revenue recognition decisions. My view on this is similar to the view that we, have taken on other reports such as this one. And effectively, and it is, admittedly, we are biased here at SOFTRAX because we sell a solution that aims to address this, but even taking that off the table, the reality is that it's clear that whatever was transpiring at Tango and other companies that have encountered these similar types of issues, it was a very loose structure in terms of how day-to-day operations that led to revenue translated to actual financial reports internally, then went up the chain for review by executives of those companies, and then were eventually handed off to external auditors and effectively the market as a whole. And it goes to the point of control, auditability, and frankly, trust, in my view, which is, I think, the advent of 606 is important and introduces a new framework. But whether it's 605 or 606, it's important for companies, and I think for people looking at those companies, investors, analysts, regulators, etc., to have a level of trust in what it is they're doing, not just for revenue, for all their financial activities, but in the area of revenue is what we're focused on, and how those numbers go from their inception to the point of being displayed as revenue. And so there's obviously 606 touches on all of that in terms of how you get there, what the requirements are, what you have to consider. But I think fundamentally, we need collectively, as ASC 606 goes into 2019, we need to think about, and companies need to think about, what is it that I'm bringing to the market in terms of our results. It shouldn't just be the numbers. It shouldn't just be our policies and procedures. It should be a narration as to why should we trust those numbers, those policies and procedures. And I think as we move forward, it's important to vet that when we're looking at the financial results of companies, because the reality is it's highly likely that there are still large companies all the way through startups that are doing their order to cash and order to revenue, contract to cash, contract to revenue processes in multiple systems, taking data out of those systems, massaging it, putting it into spreadsheets, and effectively it's touched by a number of humans, by a number of systems, by a number of entities before it actually makes its way to the end consumer of the information regarding the company's financial results. The fewer touches and the fewer points of activity that can be achieved by a company in terms of a contract / order's inception to the point in time that they're reporting revenue on it, the higher the credibility of those numbers, at least in our view, and specifically my view personally. And so it's something that I think, as we look at 606 maturing, we should all keep that in mind in terms of whether you're using a system like SOFTRAX or whether you've done some sort of proprietary system, or whether some companies have done elaborate Excel-based approaches. But whatever the machinations are, there has to be some level of comfort that what we're looking at is a solid number. And I think while ASC 606 aims to, has a number of goals in mind, and I think they are goals that, frankly, improve the validity of the numbers that we look at, the underlying operational activities, both in terms of systems, processes, and people involved in taking numbers from point A to Z and then publishing that out to, the market as a whole, the SEC, filings, what have you, it's imperative that I think there becomes a greater focus on what those systems, processes, and people are doing to bring those numbers to bear, to publish those numbers, because in the view of the reader, that would expand and effectively provide a greater amount of credence, frankly, to what it is the users of those financial results and statements are looking at. And I think, the old adage, and I understand can also be a cliche, is trust but verify. I think right now ASC 606 is building up to a level of trust. I think the verification can be solidified if companies in their public filings, and obviously this is, I know it could be a pipe dream to an extent, but if there's more clarity around, here's how we are taking our numbers in, here's how we are processing them, and here's how we are delivering them to the market, so that as end users of those financials, we collectively can have better visibility into, what are the risks? How many touch points are there? Are there any concerns we should have in terms of whether or not a tango type situation could come up where, you could have the best and most diligent individuals who are recording transactions, booking them, bringing them to the GL, but if there's no controls at the point in time those numbers go up to the executive level and they're manipulated and then published out, it's a problem. And so I think that's an area of focus collectively that should be really honed in on as we go forward into 2019. And obviously, it would be helpful to SOFTRAX. There's no denying that, but I think taking a step back and really trying to look at it as subjectively as I can, I think that is still an area that would have great value for the market, for auditors, for the SEC, and for companies as a whole to focus on, so that we can circle back to that concept of trust but verify. Well, if the filings with the SEC, or if just earnings results, etc., provide more disclosure on how the order to cash, contract to cash, and order to revenue, contract to revenue processes actually go, what systems are being used, and why we should trust those numbers, I think we'd all be better off. Look forward to doing more of these audio blogs each week, but that's our entry for the week of September 17th, 2018. I appreciate your time, and have a great week.